everybody. Welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Very happy to have somebody who is in the future. It's true. It's like Monday, 9 p.m. And what day and time is it now?
It's Tuesday, 1 p.m. here.
So apparently the weather's really nice tomorrow, from what I can see out the window there and behind you.
Cool.
So great to have you with us today, Daphne Wells. And Daphne is talking to us from the other side of the world. This is crazy that we can do this. I'm excited. Welcome to the podcast. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you again. We've already talked once. I'm really excited to talk to you, to talk about the process of writing a book, and to share your book with the audience. Welcome to Living the Next Chapter.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's exciting. It's really exciting. So, Daphne, tell me a little bit about the journey of being an author. What did you learn about yourself in the process of writing a book?
Oh, wow. Where do you start with that question? Like, you actually meet yourself in so many places that you didn't expect to writing a book. So I had been a coach for many years and was encouraged to write a book. And I knew that there was a process that I took most of my clients through. And so the process of writing a book revolved around that and putting that out in a way that people who couldn't invest to work with me one-on-one, either from a financial perspective or a time perspective, could have a taste in a DIY version, right? What it made me do in the journey was actually refine that process even more, because I had to name it. I had to, make it make sense to other people, right? To pick up a book and read it, it needs to make sense rather than me going through something with you on a one-to-one basis, right? It's a whole different level of understanding yourself and how you help people. And of course, it was also a lot of my process, because for those of us who are coaches, a lot of us, you've heard that we teach what we need to learn. Have you heard that saying?
Yes, for sure. Yes, I've heard that before. Yeah.
And so, my book is called Decide, Choose Your Own Path. And my background to that was that my path was predetermined by society. There was a right and a wrong way to live your life in rural New Zealand, and I have always been a rebel. Always knew that I was here to do things differently, and yet it was still this challenge. Well, there's a need to fit into society. I felt that as a younger person. I actually don't now. And so we kind of get sucked into doing what we're told rather than what we know is right for us. And then for me, there was this process of, well, how do I make decisions that are completely different to anyone else's and know that I can trust them?
Interesting. So what sparked then the premise behind the book, and why is this book so important?
Because a lot of the women who I have met over the years, and even a lot of men, we struggle to make decisions that are out of the norm, that don't fit the way that we are told we are meant to be and live our lives. So, it's subtitled as Your Guide to Making Effective, Empowered Decisions. So decisions that will actually move you forward and empower you in the process, right? So that you create your own path through life.
Right. So
we're all kind of, excuse me, my belief is that we are all here with a role to play in the world. And until we actually know what that is and are courageous enough to step out and consciously do it, we're actually depriving a whole lot of people.
Right, because that's our story is our story, and what we live and how we view life is our journey to discover, right? So it's very hard for somebody to impose their journey on us, right? We need to be able to live our journey and be able to experience it and learn from it in the process, right? Yeah.
Definitely. And so then once I had kind of decided the premise of the book, because the book's called Decide, it was a matter of, and chunked down the process. It was a matter of, so how do I make this a user-friendly book that people can actually not just read the information and absorb it, but actually apply it?
Mm-hmm.
So each of the sections in it, the chapters, if you will, for want of a better title, have at the end of them reflections, which are kind of like summaries, and they have questions that you can ponder on or journal on, and they also have action steps, so that if you really want to make the progress that you decided you did when you purchased the book, these are the things you can do to get yourself ready for the next step, right? Because on reflection, as part of the writing process, I realized that books that I've read over the years that have brilliant ideas in them, unless I actually have a way of implementing that in my life, I can read the book and think, well, that was great. And actually nothing changes on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like when we go to that course at work or the seminar, and it was brilliant, and yet nothing changes in our day-to-day life.
We fill our minds with information, but then we don't act on it or put it into practice.
And information, like we are overwhelmed with information in our society today. The piece that's missing for a lot of people is what information is relevant for me, how do I apply it to where I am, and how do I implement it to make a difference?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So your audience then is pretty broad, right? You're saying it's not just for women, but for men as well, but is it more geared towards?
It's written to women.
Okay, yeah.
I have had men read it and love it.
Yeah.
When you're writing a book, you don't write it to the whole world. Otherwise, no one is going to hear what you're saying. You have one reader in mind that you're writing to, right? So for me, she was one of my amazing clients.
So you had that in your mind while you were writing. Right. Okay.
Because it's the whole thing with marketing. If we market to everyone, we market to no one.
Right.
Because it's too general for anyone to hear it. And the more specific we are, the more people actually hear it. And it sounds really counterintuitive. And it's a thing that a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs struggle with. And it's the same with a book, in my opinion. If you write a book for everyone, no one's going to want to read it because it's not going to be for them, right? If you write it for one person, there will be a multitude of other people in the world who have pieces of that person's journey in their life that they can relate to, right?
Yeah. And I think maybe that's a trap that many new authors might fall into, is they don't know their audience and they just start writing. Mm-hmm. So are you suggesting that new authors should really have an audience in mind before they start writing? Is that helpful? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because to write a book, you need to know why you're writing the book. Like, are you writing it to share your most deep inner thoughts? In which case, brilliant. If you're writing it to make a difference and help more people, or to share your story with more people, then you actually need to refine that purpose really, really well. Mm. And then you need to refine, well, who is your ideal reader?
Yeah.
Who are you writing it for?
So, who they are, and I guess what they're struggling with, what is the thing that they're dealing with in life, so that you can address that specifically. Because if you're too broad, then you can't get to that level and help your reader to progress and move forward, right?
And like this is not a novel by any stretch of the imagination. If you even think about a novel, the novels that we relate to and want to read to the end, we see elements of ourselves in.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, we lose interest in the book and we stop reading it.
So do you think a novel then, as we're on this topic, as a novel is written differently than a book like yours, in the sense that a novel, you almost have to know the entire story from beginning to end as you're writing it, where another book, you don't really need to know the final ending and how the storyline leads to the final conclusion. You can kind of write the book and kind of do it as a path, like you don't really know what's coming around the corner? Or do you still have to kind of know all of the steps?
You still have to have a plan.
Okay.
Because otherwise you don't know, like you need a reason for people to read the book. Like they're coming, like you said before, things that they might be struggling with, dealing with. So what's the solution that your book provides for them?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And that'll help in the process of taking them on that journey. Okay. The one thing we talked about was, as you were writing the book, there was a moment in time where you had to take a step back from the book and you couldn't really just continue with it. You had to focus your energy somewhere else. And then you came back to the book. Do you think that in that process of stepping away for a period of time, did that help the book or did that hinder the book for you in the writing process?
Oh, it definitely helped the book. The book is a rich book because of the things I learned and the way I grew personally in that time. I was able to add more depth to the book. At the time of knowing that I needed to put it aside, because other stuff had come up in my life that needed to take priority. I had just completed the first draft of the manuscript, and I was like, phew, that's done. And then this other stuff came up. And putting it aside was really difficult because there's this sense of, well, I was going to write this book. So if I'm going to put it aside now, is that a failure? Will I ever come back to it? Have I started something and not finished it? You know, there's all those kind of, and of course you come back to the age-old question that a lot of us ask ourselves when we first feel that nudge to write a book is, well, who am I to write a book?
Okay. Yeah.
And that came up again as well. And it was a process to work through with myself and actually give myself permission that, yes, I could put this beautiful book aside and I could leave that manuscript knowing that it was complete enough to pass to an editor, copywriter, whatever, proofreader, whatever you want to call them, that next piece of the process. And yet I wasn't ready to do that for some reason. So I knew it was really an exercise in giving myself permission to go with whatever happened.
Yeah.
And to be willing to just let that be.
So you touched on I guess they call it the imposter syndrome, like, who am I to write this book? I haven't figured it all out. I'm not the expert. I'm living it. And some people don't take the step to write the book because they don't feel like they have everything all figured out and they have all the answers. So from your perspective, what are some ways to deal with that imposter syndrome and not feeling like you have all the answers? How do you push through that as an author and continue on that journey?
Knowing really clearly who you're writing it for and why you're writing it.
Okay. Back to your why. Yep.
Yeah, back to your why and back to the who, you know? And as I said right back at the beginning, one of my reasons for writing it was to make my work more accessible to more people, right? So that was like, well, this is why I'm writing it. This is who I'm writing it for. And this is why she needs it.
Interesting.
Right? So it always comes back to that why.
Mm-hmm.
And when I picked the book up again after, I want to say it was almost 18 months.
Wow. Yeah.
There was this sense of urgency. Right, she's been waiting. Now is time. It needs to get out there.
Interesting.
And there was a whole lot of, I actually went right through it with a fine-tooth comb and discarded pieces, which again is a hard thing to do, as other authors will have told you, I'm sure, and added pieces in and changed. Yeah, there was a lot of changes went in that process. And as I say, the book is a richer and better book for it.
It's interesting because maybe during that time of setting the book aside and walking away from the writing process might have felt awkward in that moment where you just want to finish this, or you're in that mode, you're in that process of writing, and it feels odd to step away. But like you said, you would have had a completely different book had you not paused in the process, and maybe you wouldn't have the same satisfaction with what you have today had that not happened. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because many people would view stepping away from a book as failure, in a sense, where I don't get to do what I want to do, or, and then give up. And that's sad to know that there might be authors in that situation, maybe even listening to this, who are at that stage and they're trying to figure out what to do next. Do I continue, or do I just pack it in and maybe writing's not for me? You're saying that it's okay to set it aside and come back at it.
I'm saying that it worked for me. I can't say it's okay for everyone. I'm saying it's a personal thing that authors, we need to be willing to give ourselves permission to do things our way, rather than, well, you've started writing this book and now you should jolly well publish it because, otherwise, why did you write it for? And you're a failure if you don't publish it, right? We can tell ourselves those stories till the cows come home, and yet if we have a situation in our life, or we feel inside of ourselves that we need to put it aside, then we actually need to go with that and get curious as to why, and be willing to give ourselves permission.
Yeah, because you're writing this, again, we're back to the journey conversation we started with. You're writing this as your journey in the process, and how you write your book and how you approach it is your journey. The way you might write a book might be different than the way someone else would write a book, but it's the finished product, and it's what you feel passionate about and what you feel proud about when you're finished. That's the end result, and that's what you need to focus on. And I love that you keep coming back to your why, because that could be for a book, that could be for a musician who writes a song, for a podcaster that has a podcast. You need to know why you're doing this, because there's going to be moments in the process where time, external things are going to challenge your why, and you need to know why you're doing this, and that has to be strong for you, so that you can stand up against those things that might distract or take you away from your goal. So that's very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's important that we have a really strong why in every aspect of our life. Otherwise, you think about, even as a parent, some days we can feel like we're not making progress, like parenting hasn't gone as well as we expected it to that particular day. And yet if we know why we're parenting the way we are, it keeps us going through those times. It's the same thing. Our why is so important in all aspects of life.
So Daphne, is there things that go along with the book from your website that kind of add to what you have written? Is there like accompanying things that people can use as well?
Yes. So in the book, there are links to, how I said that at the end of each chapter, there are activities and things like that. So often in there are links to worksheets and things that you download from my website that help you actually It gives you a piece of paper with some stuff written on it to add to, because you know how if we start with a blank sheet of paper, it can be really, really hard.
Yeah.
But if we start with one with some questions on or some prompts or whatever, it's so much easier to answer the questions.
I like
So,
how
yes.
I like how you've connected the book to your website. That's really smart, because now you have people, whether they find your website and then they find the book, or they find the book and then they come to your website. That's a nice connection that you've made there. That's really smart.
And it also makes the book more user-friendly. You know, it makes doing those steps in the book easier if you have the PDFs, the downloads, the all the things that you need. And there's actually links to a couple of videos in there as well, workshops to expand on things that there wasn't space in the book to expand on, that are not essential to the process, but definitely add to it, right? So I really did try to make it user-friendly. And as I say, one of my goals was, let's do a DIY version of how you can work with me one-on-one, right? Because let's be honest, as I said earlier, it's not always accessible for everybody.
Mm-hmm. So for those that do want to work with you, Daphne, through the website, we'll put all the links into the show notes, but what kind of things can you offer to somebody through your program, through your website, and your skills and talents and abilities? How do you help people on their journey?
So how I help people, I mostly work with soul-led visionary leaders who know that they have a message and a calling to share with the world, and yet they need to, they don't feel safe to do that. Okay. They don't feel safe to do that in a way that they can charge money for it, ask money for it. So they're a lot of the times doing it on the side of a job, and yet the world really needs their gifts. So when we can turn that around for them so that they can feel safe to ask for money to share their skills, then they can actually help more people.
That's a good point.
So it's that whole thing of increasing their impact and helping more people. The more people we help, the more people we help, right? It's a snowball effect in life. And so, yeah, there are various ways that people can work with me through. I really like working in inner circles, which are small circles of people that come together. And there's always one-on-one work with me on the side of that, because that's where we can go in and do the deep inner work that we all need to do to make progress in our lives.
That's good. And this is open to people around the world? Like, do you have a certain geographic area you focus on, or it's wide open?
No, I work with people around the world.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Excellent. And
I love technology, that it makes things so much more accessible.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any success stories that come to mind? Something that where somebody came to you and they were at this stage in their life, and working together with you or through the book, they've seen some growth or change or progress? Is there anything that comes to mind, a story?
So a lot of the women who come to me are in a space where they are busy anyway. Their lives are full. And so it's about, how do you fit this new thing in, this new dream that's calling you, this new work that you're called to do in the world? How do you fit that into an already over full day and week? So when we look at priorities and we look at what's actually going on, we can free up so much time and so much energy, and it all just kind of happens, right? And I've had women, particularly the last couple of years, who've been homeschooling as well as running successful businesses, as well as adding a new leg to their business, as well as, and we just make it all work. And it all comes down to knowing your why, knowing what's important, your priorities, and having everything really aligned.
Nice. Yeah, so this is Daphne Wells, and we're talking about her book, Decide, Choose Your Own Path. It's a book that's going to help many people. The website is there as well. We're going to have all the links as well. Daphne, is there anything that you'd like to share? I like to ask this of my authors that come on. If you can share a message with the world, what would you want to tell the world? What's your message?
choose and decide. It really is the only way, and consciously choose. Because one really big thing I realized in this process years ago for myself was when we don't consciously make a decision, we actually still make a decision. We've made a decision to let others decide for us. And so there's a big shift that we all need to make, if we haven't already, to choose and decide for ourselves, not selfishly, but choose and decide in alignment with who we are and why we're here.
Excellent. And this is going to help you. Spending time with Daphne and picking up the book and going to the website. And again, I love the fact that you're connecting the book to the website. And that's a great resource for people, and it's going to help people. Really appreciate you spending time with us today, Daphne. And we'll send people to the website and make sure that they check out the book. Thank you so much.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for having me.
And it's so nice to talk to somebody in the future. Enjoy that beautiful day, and we will talk soon.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. Hi guys, this is Dave from Living the Next Chapter, a podcast designed to connect authors and audiences. We're always on the lookout for our next interview. If you're an author, a publisher, and you have a book, whether you're just starting, whether you're halfway through writing, or it's all done and you want to tell the world, that's why we're here at Living the Next Chapter. Get in touch with us through livingthenextchapter.com, contact us, and let's set up some time together to discuss your book, to discuss your project, and how we can get you on the show. My name is Dave, and I would love to speak to you. So go to livingthenextchapter.com, and let's get over there together and discuss all the great things that you're up to as an author, as a publisher, and let's grow your audience together. Join us on livingthenextchapter.com for great authors and an audience that's eager to hear about what you're up to as an author and a publisher. Contact us today, and let's get your book out in front of others. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.